So welcome everybody to episode 93 of Level Up, 60 minutes of live Q&A where your questions and votes really do drive the show. First of all, a warm welcome to each and every one of you who are joining us today on LinkedIn or on YouTube. Please do let us know your name and whereabouts, which city in the world you are joining from. We do love to hear from you and to get everybody involved. Hayley is heading up our social team online, so she'll be posting links into the chat for you to vote up the questions that you would most like answered. And of course, for you to add your own. We live stream usually on Mondays at 8 and Fridays at 2 p.m. UK time to both YouTube and LinkedIn. We're going to talk a little bit more about the schedule in the coming days towards the end of the episode. Now, if your question's selected today, your name will appear in the credits at the end of the show. So do get those questions in early and stay with us to see all of that happen. Today, we're going to be talking about how to develop our commercial persona, those skills that we use in order to be able to influence and ultimately sell our products and services to clients. It's fascinating, I think, on LinkedIn to see so many people desperate to become trusted and influential with their customers and their clients and indeed their wider professional community. But they generally shy away from recognizing that those are the very skills which are fundamental in developing a higher level of commercial capability. Now, joining us today on the panel, we've got a highly experienced group of people who I'm sure are going to help us navigate our way through and figure all of this out. Let's begin by introducing Kay Sanders. She is the CEO of CITI Limited, who specialise, I think it's fair to say, in change enablement, building capability within organisations to deliver strategic change outcomes. Her role, of course, is primarily one of leadership, both in thought and in action, and she's used to working at the most senior levels of government and also in the boardroom. Welcome to Level Up, Kate.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for that introduction, and hello to everybody from the UK. My name is Kay Sanders, as Nick very rightly said, and I am the CEO of CITI, and we do change enablement, which can be quite difficult to sell because everybody's talking change all of the time. We need to kind of put ourselves ahead of the game, and I hope that we can give you enough today, and looking forward to taking your questions today with regards to change and really changing the skills and upskilling people within your organisation to become effective within their sales process.
Marvellous. Thank you so much, Kay. Chris Dercks is the VP for Central and Eastern Europe of F5 Networks, where he provides commercial sales leadership. As F5 continue to transform from, in the past, perhaps they were seen more as a hardware vendor to much more of a solution provider and trusted advisor with their clients. Chris is a lifelong learner who's very proud to have met and worked with many inspiring people throughout his career. Welcome to Level Up, Chris. Lovely to see you.
Hey, Nick. Thanks a lot. Great to be here. I couldn't say it better. Very well done. So thanks for the introduction. I'm very happy. First time for me to be on the panel. I'm more than happy to share what I perceived in the last 20 years in sales. I started as an engineer and then went to the transformation to the, some people say, dark side of sales. Now I'm very happy to make this kind of way, get a lot of known to a lot of people, made a lot of different experiences, and happy to talk about it today.
Okay, thank you so much, Chris. You're both very welcome, both Kay and Chris. First time on Level Up today. Sunil Mehta is, of course, you're a familiar face to Level Up viewers. He's the managing director over at Quint Consulting Services in India. He's a postgraduate, of course, in computer science and holds an MBA in marketing. Sunil has always provided great commercial leadership to his team and also to his clients. He's an advisor to many organizations at the C-suite level, and he and I have spent quite a bit of time over the years kind of together talking about, sales and positioning and all of those kinds of things. So welcome back to Level Up, Sunil. Great to see you again.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Thank you for inviting me again. Greetings from India and Quint, and very happy to contribute whatever I've learned over the last 25, 30 years of my sales experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Now, another sales professional joining the panel, returning actually to Level Up today, is Sean van Rooyen. He's, of course, the managing director over at PM.Ideas, and he joined them over 20 years ago as their national sales manager and has built his career, from there, really, focusing on new business acquisition, whilst at the same time managing all of those accounts and also taking a look at operations. He has a passion for ensuring excellence in everything that he does. So welcome back to Level Up, Sean. It's great to see you again, my friend.
Morning, Nick, and thank you. And morning, the rest of the team and everybody out there. Thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the invite, and looking forward to another dynamic session.
Excellent. Okay, thanks very much indeed, Sean. Now, as president of INTERPROM, and isn't this panel illustrious? We have real leaders, real leaders leading real teams to answer your questions today. Mart is no exception to that. As president, he's a leadership coach and consultant. He specializes, of course, in a whole range of different, tools and techniques and methods, including things like really advanced business relationship management, information security, projects and change management. He's a leading figure in the industry, and he's shaped, I think it's fair to say, and enabled the professional careers of many by investing in tireless work, pro bono work with community, including the ITSMF, of course. So, Mart, welcome back to Level Up. Lovely to see you again.
Thanks so much, Nick. Appreciate again the opportunity to contribute, and we're looking at the people attending again from all over the world. So fantastic, good job, APMG. Looking forward to answering the question.
Yeah, it is really remarkable, isn't it? How, this started from a tiny seed with just a few people, and now we have hundreds of people who join us, every week. And we really appreciate, all of the messages that people have been sending us, particularly the colleagues in the UK, over this last few days since the news came out. All right, very good. So thank you very much indeed. Our question master for today is, of course, Suchitra Jacob, who's joining us from the beautiful garden city of Bangalore in India. And Suchitra, welcome back to Level Up. How are you doing?
Hi, Nick. Hi, everyone. Great to be back again on another episode. And like you mentioned, Nick, it's been a long while since you've been doing Level Up, and I can't believe it's almost reaching the 100th episode shortly. So enjoying this.
It really is. It's kind of coming up to us fairly quickly, and I think we'll be taking a moment, I think, when we get to episode 100, just to kind of look back a little, and also importantly to look forward, which seems more poignant now, perhaps, than it was even just a few weeks ago. All right. Okay. Very good. So, Suchitra, on that note, I can see the questions that are stacking up, and all of the folks who are online as well. I'm just bringing up the social feed so I can see that. So let's jump straight into it, if we can, please, and have our first question.
Our first question is from Lisa Flock. What would you recommend to people who are new and insecure in a sales role to overcome this concern?
It's something which is talked about a great deal, isn't it, on LinkedIn, this kind of sense of self-doubt or imposter syndrome. Sunil, why don't you start us off, and then we'll hear from Mart.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. So, look, sales is a very wide and a very interesting area, and I believe everybody has to have that commercial streak in him or her to be able to succeed in any role. Coming back to the specific question, obviously, I'm assuming this person is from a sales background, not from any random background. And according to me, sales is an art. As long as you follow the defined process, do the right things, it's okay. So, for example, if you are making a call, you need to understand a little bit about the research done on the person you're calling, the company you're calling, so that you can able to connect with the person. So a lot of pre-work needs to happen, a lot of thought on how to connect with that person, technically, even if it's a virtual session. So I would say you need to figure out why the person is insecure. Is it because they don't know about the sales process? They don't know about the person they are speaking to? They don't know anything about the organization? They don't know anything about the product or service they are selling? As long as we have a good understanding of those areas, I would say it would be slightly more comfortable and easy to go through. That's my point.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much. Research is so important. I'm sure that we're going to come back to that. Mart, your thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Chris.
I was going to say the same thing indeed as far as the research, right? Do your homework, right? Who are you going to speak with? What is their industry? What's the market? Learn as much as you can. So, be best prepared. And then, once you start the conversation or prepare the conversation further, always tap into your experiences. Share some of your stories, some of your challenges, and how you overcame those. I mean, you talk about yourself. I mean, there's hopefully nothing to be nervous about because you were the one in the center of the story. So hopefully that'll calms down the nerves because you're talking about something you've experienced, and hopefully then of course resonates considering the audience that you're talking to.
Yeah, I think that that's so important, to be yourself and to open up a little bit and to allow your client, your customer to connect with you as a human being. It's such an important technique then to be able to build that relationship and take it further. Very good. Chris, your thoughts, please, and then we'll hear from Kay.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think it's very important not to be afraid to make errors. So you should be prepared to make errors, and that's where you are learning from. Especially if you're new in sales, just try things out. You are normally not alone. You should have contacts. You should have people you are talking to who are with you, who you can learn from, and kind of important is also to get some feedback, right? So get the feedback from these people and grow with that.
Thank you so much, Chris. That's really great advice so far. I'm hoping, Lisa, that you're getting some comfort from what we're saying here. It's all very down to earth, very authentic. It's very heartfelt. This is how we feel about this. Kay, your thoughts on this, please.
My biggest advice would be to be extraordinarily prepared. Understand the client, understand the products or the services, your own organization. Practice having the conversations internally first in a safe space so that you can build your confidence and ensure that you are really prepared to answer the questions of the client, really present yourself in the most extraordinary way so that you can be rehearsed, not so that it's scripted and it looks fake, but so that you really do understand where you're coming from and having some belief in yourself and what you're doing and why it might be important to that client and how it might make a difference. Having those conversations internally can really help you to prepare, and preparation is probably key to me.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Kay. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you very much, panel. And also, Lisa, thank you for asking a question, which I think everybody feels. The folks who are in that interface between your organization and the clients, they carry a lot of responsibility. And it's easy to, kind of imagine that somehow or another they don't feel that. But, we're all human beings and we do feel that weight of the responsibility. The key thing is really here is just to be yourself, settle into it and be open and honest and authentic. And from there, then your customer will start to relate to you and you can build up that relationship. So what a brilliant question to start us off on today's conversation. Thank you very much indeed, Lisa. Let's move on if we can, Suchitra, and we'll take our next question, please.
Question from Edward. Salespeople are sometimes not fully aware of the products they sell, which can be a roadblock. How can this be addressed?
It's a really important aspect, really, isn't it? Sunil, how do you do this? Because your organization deals with a range of really quite specific and technical products and services. Start us off.
Yeah, as per my experience, customer wants to buy from salespeople who are excited to sell. right? And knowing your product or service is an absolute essential. It's a crime in our organization if you just walk in without proper knowledge. We talked about research. I think the last session talked about research. So it's very difficult to sell and to have a good conversation with the customer if you don't know deep into the product. Yeah. Uh, Obviously, nobody expects sales to become a technical person, but at least they should know the features, what is the issue it's trying to solve, what's the pain it's going to solve for the customer. If we can't even answer that, we won't be able to sell. So I would say it is not a roadblock, it is a big roadblock if we do not know about the product or a service that we are selling to the customer.
Thank you very much indeed. Chris and then Mart.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting question, and it probably changed over time a bit. Because if I see F5, our company, we are in a transformation from a kind of hardware, very centric product to a more wider software company. And our people can't know everything from this product. And at the end of the day, of course, you need to be prepared from the customer perspective, what the customer is doing. On the other hand side, of course, you should know your product, but there is a certain boundary where where the customer doesn't expect that you know that. You have normally experts in your company who can explain very complex details. So there is a kind of expectation that you should know what you are selling. And especially you should concentrate on the value, what the product brings to the customer, and not the feature, what you have, and explain every feature in detail. That's probably not needed anymore in this world. Customers are kind of quick in understanding. So they have their expert, bring the experts together, you have and the customer have. But as a salesperson, you need to sell and to get the relationship up to working. So people are buying from people. That's still true for many years in the history. So product roadblocker is something, if the company is providing you some training, for example, if we onboard people, they have a 30, 60, 90 days plan where they get onboarded in the products. That's fully enough from our standing. From our understanding. And if you are interested in this product, if you are interested in this technology, you will get anyhow get transported this interest into the customer. That's what he will appreciate. The product knowledge itself, it should be on a good base, but it's not a roadblocker for me at the end of the day from a salesperson. That's something. There are other things expected. There are emotions. There are relationship. That's something which is probably more important in the sales process than at the end the deep product knowledge.
I think you're so right, Chris. It's a balance, isn't it, between replacing the technical expertise on your you need to have enough. You need to empathize with the technology, if I can use that phrase, so that you are enthusiastic about it and you share that passion. That passion comes across, with your client. But it's also okay to say to the client, that's a really great question. What I'm going to do is I'll bring in my colleague, because they are an expert in this area, and that question is a little bit beyond my level of expertise. So great advice there. Thank you so much indeed. Mart, let's come to you next, and then we'll hear from Kay.
A lot has been said already, so I just want to add that in case it happens, you get a question about deep technical product knowledge, then and you're not the expert. Be honest. Just be honest. As in, that's not my forte. So I will bring in the expert, or I brought the expert with me. Even better, of course. But I would say for a salesperson, it's important to at least know the value of the product and maybe a few success stories. I mean, that shouldn't be too technical or too much to ask as far as where did it work and what have you seen. So at least be prepared that way.
Absolutely right. Thank you very much indeed. Kay, and then I think Sunil will bring you back in.
I think a lot's been said already that I agree with entirely. And one of the things I just wanted to add really is that if you are very honest and say that you don't really know the full answer to that question, what you're actually doing is building trust with the client, and the client will completely understand most of the time that you don't have all of the knowledge and experience within the detail of a particular product or service that you are talking about. Also, it's really dangerous, I think, for salespeople, out and out salespeople who don't have the knowledge and background and the detail to start to solutionize something that potentially could cause a problem within operational matters. So over promise and under delivery is then an issue for the organization, and that reputational cost can be quite huge and detrimental to the organization. So actually admitting and saying, this is something that I don't understand in detail, I would really prefer for us to have a more in-depth conversation, and opening the door for somebody with that expertise to come in actually builds more rapport, and it actually does connect with the client in a different kind of dimension, which actually then deepens the relationship. And I think that is something that we mustn't forget. We don't have all of the answers all of the time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. Sunil, final thoughts on this before we move on?
The point that I want to make is the profile of the salesperson has changed over the years. Earlier they were purely commercial in nature, but now, especially in the service management consulting area, the expectation is that their profile would be a little more wider. They should be able to answer the risks. They should be able to handle the pains. And I see in my organization, a lot of salespeople are coming from the technical side, right? So so that they are able to handle a much wider range of questions, and you don't need two sets of people, one an SME and other sales. So, and I see that happening in service management quite often, where the business relationship person is not just a commercial guy, but a pretty good delivery guy who's moved into that role. So that kind of solves some of the issues here, that the person would actually know a little bit more deeper about the product and the service, and should be able to handle a majority of the questions by the customer. And if he or she can't, then they bring in an SME to handle that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. It's so important to talk about how organizations are evolving, and, the way in which our clients, they're very sophisticated now. Their expectations are much different, to where they were when I began my career, which is about 100 years ago, I agree, but nonetheless, anyway. So, look, I just wanted to spend a moment or two just saying hi to people. So thank you so much for joining. Finori John Adomi from Lagos, brilliant to see you online today, and a great lifelong learner as well, looking at all of those qualifications. Ayob, thank you so much for joining us from Ethiopia. We have a lot of colleagues in Ethiopia who are doing some really brilliant work, so it's fantastic to see you there. And a fellow Lancastrian, Mo, brilliant. Thank you for joining from the sunny town of Preston. And if you live in Lancashire, you'll know there's a little bit of a smile in my voice there when I've said that. And of course, Wilfred joining from Uganda as well, over in East Africa. Fantastic community of professionals working there to really develop leading practice and get their organizations, their teams and their colleagues' careers really on the boil. So fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. Now, if you're watching online and you have a question for the panel, then please type it in. I can see actually, Suchitra, some questions stacking up now. So why don't we do that? Why don't we take our next question, please?
We have a live question from Mufadil Dahodwala. What are the key attributes in sales or pre-sales to win a deal?
Now, this is such an important part of it, isn't it? It's the winning bit. It's quite interesting there. So it's quite a deep question, actually. Mart, why don't you start us off, okay? And then we'll hear from Sunil next.
I'll keep it short. There's a few keywords that come to mind. That is integrity and credibility, but also your abilities, capabilities to build relationships. To build a relationship. To me, that's key.
All right, thank you very much indeed. Relationships are at the heart of this. Absolutely right. Sunil, your thoughts, please, and then Chris.
Yeah, building on what Mart said, I would add two more points. One is that, as I said earlier, it's an art, it's a process. So if you follow the process of preparation, connecting with the customer, which is building relationship, knowing a little bit more about the product, understand what the pain points of the customers are so that you can really connect, have the ability to close sales, because again, a lot of sales do a lot of good work, but when it comes to the end part, they're not able to ask for sales. So be open and forthright, ask for sale with the customer, and then do what you commit to do. So that's from the process part. But I also personally believe that not everybody can become sales person. You need to have that kind of persona within yourself. So your personality should be, you should be assertive, you should be okay to fail, you don't close every deal, right? You should be able to build relationship with the person, you should be able to be innovative right in front of the customer, come up with some good thoughts and processes. And I would say, apart from the process of sales, you also have to have the basic behavioral and personality traits that kind of brings up your sales persona.
Yeah, I think that that's really important, to recognize that we all have different strengths, and that in our personalities, there are going to be some people who are more predisposed, perhaps, to certain roles, in our professional lives. Chris, this question is really about, thinking about how teams work together and perhaps the differences between sales and pre-sales, and where that emphasis may lie. So what are your thoughts on this question? What are those key attributes, would you say?
I think there are many attributes probably you could nominate here on this questions. But at the end, I agree also to what Mark and Sunil said. For me, it's key to never give up. Take a time to win this deal. It will not come from one day to another. It's a lot of work you have during this process, and sometimes you get a lucky shot. But normally, I would say it's a lot of work, and this work is not done by you alone. If you try that, normally you will fail. You need people. You need the pre-sales help. You need other people who execute at the end to win this deal, even to book deals. You need people in the back. There is a back office, and all of these people are very important to the sales process and to these win of a deal. So you are maybe the orchestrator as a salesperson, and you should be aware that you have the accountability. You have the owner. You are the owner, the ownership. And if you are aware of that, I'm pretty sure the win has a high potential to get a win at the end and not a loss. And if you are patient enough, show the customer value, be the one who is the voice to the customer, obsessed over customer, and he feels that, I'm pretty sure you will win the deal.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Sean, and then we'll hear from Kay.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. I think there's three components in the pre-sales activity. It's identifying clients where your product would most be suited from a benefits perspective, and if salespeople focus on benefits within the organization and how the client will service, that's already a win. In the actual sales meet, they actually sit down and understand what he's looking for, and then focus your solution to fix that, and only that from a start. Salespeople want to dump in product catalog or all their services. If you sit there and you really understand what the issues are and how your product can assist the client, and focus purely on that and put your solution based on that to show the client the benefits, then I believe that when it gets to the closing, it's a lot easier to ask the closing if they are buying from you, maybe missed something, that gives you an opportunity to be able to ask a few additional questions around what you did propose. Does it fit into their business? Will it actually give them that benefit? If not, retweak, and then give it a little bit of time. And then don't be afraid to pick up the phone and phone the client, or go and see the client and say, right, where are we? Are we going to move forward? Are we going to close the deal? Are we going to be able to have a business relationship moving forward? And if you do that and you only focus on the most important and the critical areas, then I believe that you can become what they call a trusted advisor, and your client will then potentially open up to you a little bit more and give you a little bit more detail as to what they're really looking for if your solution is 110% fit.
Yeah, and I think we had some little challenges there, Sean, on your connection. But what I was picking out of that was that, you have a leadership role here. You need to be able to get, the sale kind of across the line. There's a leadership role, and you have to drive that process to some extent, at any rate. But also, then you have different roles and responsibilities with colleagues who are working in a consultative sales process in order to be able to ensure that the solution is indeed the right one, for your client, and that it will deliver those benefits back to your customer's organization. So some really great answers so far on this, and what a fantastic question, Mufadal, that you've been asking. Kay, your thoughts on this one, please.
I'll go back to what I said before around preparation and how important that is. And I think that's the key of what we're all saying here. What is the problem that you're actually solving for that client? And can they visualize, or can you help them to visualize what the new world would look like? So the benefits position that Sean was alluding to, absolutely, understanding that the benefit will outweigh the cost at the moment of the sale, and how that will kind of formulate. What is really absolutely critical is the understanding of the client and what is most important for them. What is their pain point? What is it that you have got to offer? And it could be a product or a solution, as in a more consultative solution that they can't visualize entirely. But what you do need to do is collaborate with them and convince them more that you are the person that can help them, to handhold them through the problem, to reach the right conclusion, and work with them to establish what that solution would look like. So I think in terms of pre-sales, again, extraordinary preparation. But in terms of actually closing the sale and asking for the business, I think it's again goes back to, relationships being paramount, and building those relationships together, and really helping them to visualize what the new world would look like when they've worked with you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And never forget that there is a moment of truth in all of this. There's a moment where it will feel right. And I'd love to be able to describe it in a more scientific way than that, but I genuinely don't believe that it is. It's a sense that you have through your relationship with your client that they're now ready. Okay, you might not have all of the answers. You may not have discovered all of the value that is going to be provided to them in your solution, but nonetheless, you're at the tipping point. And when you get to that point, then it's best to proceed. All right. Otherwise, you may well find that it becomes impossible to proceed if you leave it too late. So it's a very, very important balance to get right. So very well done. Great question. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching online and you want to put your question to the panel, I would hurry up, because we've got quite a lot of questions stacking up, and I think, panel, we're going to need to pick up the pace a little if we can. Suchitra, let's take our next question, please.
We have a question from Mart. No matter the job or role you have, they all require some level of selling yourself. What is recommended to successfully sell your expertise and knowledge?
Yeah, how do you go about that, panel? How do you get that, kind of secret sauce, if you like, about yourself and your experience and your knowledge across to customers? Kay, start us off if you can, please.
I think understanding yourself and how you've come to where you are now, what's brought you here, having a little bit of reflection time. Brand is important, but not overly, not not so branded as if it's been polished to the point where you lose any authenticity about yourself. So I think there's a good balance to be reached here around the role you have and having some confidence in the role that you have and why and how you've become who you've become. That then really helps with any imposter syndrome. I think we all have that. And if we don't have that, that's pretty strange not to. I'd probably question that, to be honest. I think having a little bit of authenticity and coming across as personable to your clients is absolutely important. And being confident with your experience and knowledge. If you say you are an expert in something, then make sure you're genned up to the point where you understand what the new thinking is. Challenge respectfully, challenge other people in their thinking. And yeah, ask those questions and have the confidence and belief in yourself. Get the feedback from your clients and get feedback from your trusted network so that you ensure that you are keeping on the ball all the time and enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy it, it does come across.
Absolutely right. You can see through it straight away, can't you? Sunil, please, your thoughts, and then we'll hear from Chris.
Well, I like the question because it's a very good question to say that you would require sales knowledge or commercial knowledge in anything you do, whether you're a developer or a support person. I'm relating it to our own organization, and we call it critical skills. And some of those skills are things like listening skills. Are we listening to the customer's requirement? They are in most sessions we say what percentage of time you are speaking and what percentage of time the customer is speaking, and we realize that we end up selling more than the customers telling us about the pain. So listening is very important. I would say we've forgotten the art of asking the right questions. So the questioning techniques, we're training a lot on how to ask the right question. How do we get to know the areas of concern and the pain, the real issues the customer is hiding, by asking the right question. Obviously, things like positioning, closing, being assertive to ask for sales, which we say checking. You should always be checking, and your overall aura, your presence, the way you dress, the way you demonstrate confidence. I would say these would be very common skills with anybody who wants to sell his or her ideas to either the end customer or within the organization should have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Chris, your thoughts, please.
Yeah, thanks. I make it short. So it's Sunil and Kate already said everything I think I also had in my mind. But for me, one important point in for this question is really the authentic, to be authentic. If you are not authentic, if you are not yourself, if you try to be somebody you are not, then the customer will definitely see that and feel it. It's maybe a bit different on if you are remotely or if you are on site, because from my perspective, if you are on site, if you're with the customer in a room, it can be much quicker, it can be much faster how you can make the difference as a person. In a remote session, it's a bit more difficult. You need to be probably to have a few more tries to get this message from your feeling, from your body language, from your from what you are saying, how you are saying it, what kind of importance you communicated to the customer. And it's not so much about the product expertise from my view or from my and the knowledge. It's more what you can transfer as a message, what you will do as a person for the customer. That's what they want to be ensured that you treat them after you sold something. These kind of things are very important normally to customers.
Absolutely. Thank you so much indeed. Mart, you asked this question. What are your thoughts?
A lot has been said already. So, but I'm going to take a slightly different angle to this question. I'm going to pick up on what you said earlier, Nick. You talked about moments of truth, and there's actually a fantastic book written by Jan Carlson, the CEO of SAS Airlines, who basically did an organizational transformation to get everybody in this organization aware of their moments of truth with their potential customers or passengers or the passengers. Frontline workers obviously knew there were moments of truth, but what appeared, it was basically that anyone in the organization had to become aware of their moments of truth. No matter where you were in the organization, you know, you could make or break that relationship with that passenger or potential passenger. I think it's an easy read. I highly recommend anyone to become aware of their moments of truth because it's part of the sale, basically.
It really is. And people often talk about, purpose of organizations and, becoming, a culture, adopting a culture in an organization, a certain way of working. And a culture is really just, the expression of our behaviors. So if you have customer service people who are representing the brand and they're living and breathing the purpose, then those moments of truth are going to be incredibly positive experiences. The other thing that I would say on this one is there's some fantastic guidance that you can get from two authors, a gentleman called Matt Crabtree and Gary Gamp. Okay, Gary Gamp. Now, these two gentlemen have been in the technical services industry for many, many years. And they've put together some guidance that really helps people who are more comfortable with being perhaps a subject matter expert than they are necessarily in being perceived as a salesperson. It's really to help you build out your commercial capability and become a rain maker, somebody, in other words, who, when they're involved in discussions with clients, can surface more commercial opportunities that will help you build out business and deliver mutual benefit, to those customers. So I would thoroughly recommend that you have a look at that. I recently joined a self-study group myself in order to be able to go through this. And I found it a really, really useful reminder in some regards, but also I learned some new stuff as well. So little QR code there on the screen for you to follow through and have a look at. And we hope to see you learning more about Rainmaker soon. Very good. Excellent. Thank you so much, panel. And thank you, Mart, for asking that question. Really super helpful. So, Suchitra, I think we've got time for perhaps two more questions. So let's crack on and take our next question, please.
We have a live question from Pauline. We talk about sales as in a big sales achievement, but are the same skills, techniques applicable no matter the size of the deal?
They really are, Pauline. What a lovely question about, remaining authentic, whatever you are doing, whether it's the modest through to the enterprise wide. Sunil, start us off, then we'll hear from Chris.
Okay, my experience is we would still need the same skills and techniques, but the effort would change. So, for example, we've been talking about preparation, knowing about your customer, knowing about who you are talking to. So, in a big sales, it's not one person, it's like a big chain of people, right? You go one meeting after the other. So, you need to do a little more deeper research. Similarly, when you're looking at question that you should ask, again, it would be a little more deeper thought process. You'll spend more time talking about it. Finding out their pain would be from different angles. We call it in Quint as pain chain. So we find out what's the pain and how does it move across the organization, which means we need to spend more time. So just to summarize, I would say you would need the same skills, the same process, but probably for a smaller deal, you want to spend less time on it or skip some steps. But obviously, in a larger deal, you need to spend more time, go deeper into it so that you get the hang of it. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Chris, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's really a tricky question. It sounds easy, but it's a tricky question because you have also, as a company, you have a cost of sales behind it. And if you have to do the same effort, if you have to do the same things for a very small deal than for the huge or the biggest deal you have, then you probably have to focus either more only on the biggest deals, or you will probably have a problem. So at the end, I would say from the skills, depending on how you approach customers. So if you have to do cold calls to customers, you don't know the customers, then you have a bit of a different sales technique. If you are a major, we call it major account manager, a senior account manager, having a top 100 customer in front of you, and you have only 2, 3, 4, 5 customers in your responsibility, then you have probably a bit of a different technique and also focus for this customer. You are getting more into these kind of organization. You have to have a bit more of different skills, as you are just sitting in a remote office and doing cold calls and handing over potentially then a date for a meeting to other salesperson. So it depends a bit on the role, but in general, the characteristics of a salesperson, I would say they are pretty similar. It's just how you do it and what is the focus that might be different, and is also a bit depending what kind of technique you are using.
Absolutely. Thank you very much indeed. Kay, your thoughts?
I agree entirely with what Chris was just saying there. It is dependent really upon the organisation and your own sales process, and the length that it takes within to get through that process, depending on your own process internally. For me, I'm going to change it up a little bit and say that the quality of the deal itself is more important. So, for example, it may start out as a smaller, or what is perceived to be a smaller kind of a deal. However, the depth that you go to in the questions that you ask and how you relate with that individual and what their influence is within the wider organization, all of these things are important. So in terms of skills and techniques, yes, they're probably the same. However, there is something here around understanding and having some emotional intelligence, or some other kind of tapping into what that then could lead to is also important. Reading the road ahead for that organization, and understanding that I don't really do big and small. It's everybody is important, and it's important that we kind of treat everybody with the same kind of level of respect, and what have you. And I have worked in organizations before where the bigger the deal, the more emphasis, but the cost of sale was huge. So you have to kind of think about all of these things and weigh them up and really try to understand what's really going on. So it's more of a complex question than it appears.
Thank you. So often the case, they have kind of multi-layers to them. Sean, you're very experienced in trying to get this balance right. What are your thoughts?
As I want to add on a bit to Casey, because Casey, I like the way she answered that. And to me, I see it as every sale to me is a big sale. And the reason I say that is because if you've never dealt with a client before and you manage to get a product or a service in there, then to me, that's a big sale, because you've now got the ability to be able to build revenue, additional revenue. So if a sale is big because it's got a large revenue target against within your organization, then that's one thing. If it is big because it's a brand new client and it's only a small revenue number, well, the organization, it's still big. The skills and the techniques that you need are exactly the same. I find them exactly the same as if you are selling one product or you're selling 15. So long as you as a sales individual can really understand how your product or service can benefit and add additional business value and meet the organization's strategic drivers, then I do believe that if you drop one product or you're able to get one service in there, that is a big thing. And then on that, you're able to then build additional products and services on top of that, creating a whole lot of smaller sales achievements, which in turn are actually really big in your organization. So I don't like to differentiate between big and small sales. I believe that all sales are fundamental and all sales in every salesperson's eyes should be seen as big, and that you've achieved a huge successful implementation or a proposal and solution that your client has bought, which then allows for them to be able to be more, add additional trust, and you add more trust. That's just my view.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sean. And it's extremely valuable. And I think the nuance that each of the panel has brought, to that multi-layered question has been super important for us. So thank you very much indeed. Well, look, time is running out for us. So I think, Suchitra, we've just about got time to take one final question for today. So let's jump in and do that. Panel, we might need to be a little bit quick here.
We have another live question from a father. What is consultative sales, which is in demand these days?
Okay, Mart, start us off.
Investigative selling, right? That's what we're looking at. And then actually, this is the part I like the most about selling, as in getting to know your potential business partner and build that relationship, because then they feel comfortable opening up, and then you can be of so much more value to them. So that's my answer.
Thank you so much. Kay?
I was just going to say, you need to build rapport. That's the biggest thing. You need to build rapport. You need to get your impact in there. You need to make sure that you really understand the client and you can help them to visualize what their new world will look like. That's the difference. Transactional is about productizing sales, and that's a mistake that people make sometimes when consulting selling. They want something tangible, and sometimes you can't give them that. So you have to take them on a little journey and help them to visualize what the new world will look like by working.
Thank you very much. Sunil?
Yeah, I like the term consultative selling, because I think that's what every sales needs to be, because they're following a journey, as we've been talking about since the beginning. We need to understand a little bit more about the customer. We are not a Casanova sales anymore. We just go in and say, oh, they'll get attractive with my flashy coat and my jacket. Not anymore, right? So you need to go a little bit deeper. You need to really earn their trust, right? And I think that's changing. And people buy from people who are eager to sell. I keep saying, so the enthusiasm should be high. The level of, I would say, awareness and knowledge of the customer should be high. They respect that they've done. The agency has done a research. They know our areas of concern. They are relating it to it, and they're not very aggressive to sell, right? They have the right patience. So I would say, yeah, I like that term. This is going to be the long-term stay. Consultative selling, do research, and in the end, I would say what we were not doing earlier, we do a good pitch and then we leave it. What consultative selling also tells us is ask for sales. Don't be afraid to check and say, when are you closing this with me? Which is a whole new paradigm altogether. And then obviously, the customer is happy to commit to you at that point and say where we go from there. So I like it. I love it.
Thank you very much indeed. Sean, final thoughts on this?
Well, I enjoy the consultative sales side, and purely because the client gets to talk a lot more. You can really sit back and ask one question and let the client run off with it. And by them doing it, you're actually getting them to come up with the solution, depending on how you question them. And if you could question them correctly and you just get them to speak and speak and speak, they actually end up coming up with the solution, which you can then provide. And if you can provide the exact same solution that they came up with, then why would they not purchase? I like this part of the game. It is difficult for some, because a lot of salespeople like to just walk into somebody's office and just start blabbing out and trying to sell anything and everything and trying to show that they understand their product, as opposed to sitting back and actually getting the client to discuss their issue and their problems with you, which then allows you to sit back, come up with a solution and propose. So it's a lot tougher, but it's a lot more fun if you get it right. And question technique is hugely critical when it comes to consultative selling.
Indeed. Thank you so much indeed, panel, for guiding us through what is quite a tricky subject. And I'm sure that we're going to return to it again, as we all need to develop, our own ability to be able to explain. And through explanation and trust comes mutual benefit. And that mutual benefit invariably translates then into commercial activity and real business. So very good. So let's hear some closing remarks then from today's episode. Sunil, if I can, I'll come to you first and then we'll hear from Mart.
So it was very interesting, good questions, I think global audience. What I like to say is that we should, as salespeople, focus on selling a solution to the customer. And obviously, when you don't try to sell, just sell a solution which solve their issue. And if they really like and connect, they will buy from us. So I think that's as simple as that from the learning today. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you so much, Mart, and then Sean.
Just a very short quote, hopefully, as a takeaway. It says, you don't close a sale, you open a relationship.
Really good. Really good. Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed. I always enjoy, Mart always comes up with something, original and deep and meaningful, and I write them all down. So thank you so much, Mart. It's a really good one. Sean, please, and then Chris.
Okay. Two things. Focus on how your product or service can benefit the client. Really work on your question technique, and then try and build rapport with your client by making sure that you offer what they're looking for. And by doing that, I think you can become a trusted advisor. And those are the critical skills.
Thank you so much, Chris, and then Kate.
Yep. Thanks. I enjoyed it a lot today. Thanks for the invitation. It was a great discussion. I must say, just if I should guide somebody, coach somebody, be authentic, be yourself, and don't be afraid. Sales is a lot of fun, really. I can promise you. It's very wide. I would like to encourage everybody, which industry, however, come to sales. It's great. You will learn a lot. And if you are prepared, if you are a hard worker, you will make it.
Thank you so much, Kay, and then Suchitra.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for inviting me along to do this. I've really enjoyed it, so that's great. I think a lot of what I was going to say has been said, but I'll reiterate: extraordinary preparation and ensuring really that you can help the building rapport with the client is most paramount. Holding their hand and helping them to see what the world would look like, and going on that passionate journey really to try and solve problems really that are going on out there, and you can really help people by doing that. So I don't see it as sales, I see it as consulting, and I love it.
Excellent. Thank you so much indeed, Kay. And that comes across with every answer that you've shared with us today. So thank you. Suchitra, final thoughts, please.
It was an amazing show, and thank you to the panelists. I learned a lot from today's show, and we could have easily gone on for a much longer time. We do have a lot more questions, so we will surely come back to this topic again.
Thank you. And thank you so much, Suchitra, for selecting some of the questions. And we really want to thank, on behalf of everybody, our panel, of course, but also our producers who are online, for your excellent questions today. Great job. And do watch out for your name appearing in the credits if your question was selected. Now then, over on our website, you can, of course, search for answers to over 1,400 of the questions that have been previously asked into Level Up and our other online events from more than 140 experts around the world, and connect with them. You can also, of course, listen to the audio versions of the shows on your preferred podcast platform. Now then, Friday, we're going to be talking about project management, and in particular, how to reach the pinnacle of the profession through becoming a chartered project professional. On Monday, the 19th, our episode on change leadership, that's going to be rescheduled after Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II's funeral, which is now scheduled to be held on that day. Level Up will be returning on Friday, the 23rd of September, with our first ever event in the Polish language, exploring how best to innovate and live in an agile world. Subscribe to the show, and we'll send you a personal summary of what's coming up and how you too can join us here on the panel and level up your career with APMG. Thanks very much, everybody. We'll see you next time.